Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Grow Your Recruitment Business in 2021 LinkedIn live show. The topic of today's show is, would a 4-day week work in recruitment? And I've got a very special guest for you today. Has actually rolled out a 4-day week in his business successfully, and he's going to share some experiences with us. So I'll introduce David shortly. But as I've mentioned before, there is a delay with StreamYard going live and you guys actually being able to see us on LinkedIn and Facebook. So as you log on, as you see us, come on and say hello. Let us know that you can see and hear us okay. Most of you will be coming on because you were intrigued as to see if a 4-day week can work in recruitment. Or you might be having a 4-day week in your office and working successfully. So please do come on, let us know in comments. We want your input. We want to know your thoughts. We want to know whether you think it would work in your business for your market. We will also do a Q&A at the end as well, where you will be able to ask myself and David any questions that you have following the live. So as you come on, please do come on and say hello. Let us know if you have any particular personal experience of the subject. And let us know at the end if you have any questions. Just going to give it a minute for people to get their notifications and people to start logging on. And then I will introduce David to you. As I said, if you've got personal experience of successfully working a 4-day week, or if it's not really thought about until now, and you're interested in how it's worked for David's business, please do come on and let us know why you are here. If you have to go during the broadcast because we go a little bit long and it's lunchtime, or you get a client call or someone pop into the office, do not worry, just pop back over to my profile later on and there will be a replay waiting for you. As I said, please feel free to participate as we go along to let us know what you find interesting, what you don't, what might work for you, what might not, and please do ask all your questions at the end. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our special guest for today, introducing David Stone. Now, David is the Chief Exec of MRL Consulting Group. Now, following a successful 6-month trial in 2019, MRL has permanently implemented a 4-day working week into their business, whereby their staff work for 4 days, but actually get paid for 5. So the reason that I invited David to be today is that there is currently a lot of talk about continuing flexible working in recruitment, whether a 4-day week is possible, how it would affect billings, how it would affect candidates and clients and staff. And some people are adamant that a 4-day week can work, and it's personally worked for me, but some people feel that it would have a detrimental effect on their business. Now, David has already implemented this into his business and obviously is a little bit further ahead, so he's got experiences of how it's worked and what the benefits were for his business as well. So I thought it would be a nice conversation to have from someone with the experience of actually doing it. So huge welcome to David. Thank you so much for joining me. This is David's first live, and thank you so much for giving us the privilege. I'm sure it will not be your last when people come back and watch it. So do you just want to give us a little bit of a background on your business, David? Give us a background on MRL, your offices, how many staff you actually have.
Okay, so MRL, we started life in 1997 as Microscope Recruitment Limited, which is where the MRL comes from. And it was to do international semiconductor recruitment, so very niche, high-tech, international. Currently, we have about 65 staff, offices in Brighton on the south coast is the head office, and we've got offices in Dresden in Germany and in Sophia Antipolis in France. Sophia Antipolis is about 10 miles left of Nice. So we're covering the European region, as in the UK office covers Northern Europe, and also we're doing the US work from here. And we've got offices Germany and France covering Central and Southern Europe.
Fantastic. I'm presuming up until 2019, you operated a traditional Monday to Friday working model.
Yeah, very much, very old school. I am quite old-fashioned in many respects. Came into recruitment in the mid-90s, and that's the majority of our company's life. That's how I've operated, which is the classic: work harder, do more, hit the phone harder, clatter out the BD calls, blah 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 blah. Yeah, and one of the biggest topics we have, one of the biggest issues we have in the company we have quarterly management meetings where the French and German office managers fly over. Well, they did before this bloody COVID thing. And we'd have our quarterly management meetings. And one of the biggest topics every quarter was recruitment and retention for our company, because obviously we're trying to expand. Well, obviously we are trying to expand generally. Every year I'm trying to increase headcount by 10, 20% or whatever. And we're looking for good people generally across all locations. And from a retention point of view, obviously you don't want to lose good people. Yeah. So one of the biggest topics every quarterly management meeting is recruitment and retention. And back in end of 2018 or so, I suppose it was, at the meeting, Enrico, the manager of the Dresden office, he comes to me and he goes, "Have you considered the 4-day week?" And I was like, "Why, do you want more holiday allowance, mate?" I said, "Speak to me. If you need more time off, just talk to me. You know, he works very hard. This guy's got 2 kids, and I just thought he wanted more time off." And he goes, "No, not for me, not for me." He says, "Think about it this way. We do a 4-day working week. Good people will want to join our company, and our good people will never leave." And at this point, I was like, "Yeah, all right, you absolutely have my attention. This is right in the zone of what I want to be looking at." Okay. And I was reminded at that point of an article I'd read a few years prior when a guy named John Nash, who runs a recruitment company in London called Nicholson. John and I worked together at PSD in the 90s and hadn't spoken since leaving PSD, but he'd gone on to run and own Nicholson International, I think it is, in London. And a few years ago, he had put an article out on LinkedIn about doing the 4-day week. And at the time, I thought, wow, this is interesting. I like the look of this. But I had some internal issues at the time, shall we say, that made it inappropriate to consider doing something quite as radical as that. So I'd pretty much parked it and pretty much forgotten about it until Enrico came along and said, "Okay, recruitment and retention, 4-day week. Can we make it work?" And so then I was like, "Yeah, all right, you've got my attention. This is left field, and I like it. It's really interesting." So I went off and started just world of Google research. And there are millions of articles and information sites on Google about companies working a 4-day week or trialing the 4-day week or trying and failing to do a 4-day week. Yeah. So I got back in touch with John Nash. He was very kind with his time, gave me a good couple of hours of his time talking about how they'd done it, the pitfalls, things to look out for, tweaks, blah, 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 blah. And there were a lot of studies coming out of Scandinavia where Scandinavian companies have a very different approach to work-life balance and employee welfare than you typically find in the UK. So there was a lot of Scandinavian articles of interest. And you start collating all this information together. And then you start to think, okay, where you've got to make a mindset shift on this is, I think we're pretty conditioned in life, in business and whatever. We monitor inputs, time spent, how many hours are you in front of your terminal? Yeah. How many phone calls did you make? And I think there's far less attention paid in most companies to outputs. What is the actual end result that you're trying to achieve? Yeah. But we're so busily focusing on the inputs. Has Timmy sat at his desk from 9 till 6, Monday to Friday, and been a diligent, eager worker or whatever? And actually what you should be looking at is the outputs. What is Timmy's target and has he achieved it? And if he achieves it in 3 days, then bravo, well done, Timmy, go home, mate. You don't need to smash the hours. And in fact, half the time, what you're seeing is people, they're just time filling. Yeah, they're scrolling endlessly, looking like they're doing something productive, but actually they've checked out for the day. Yeah, and you're not getting any value out of those people when they're just doing that. And the other sort of realization I came to, and I'm very honest about it, is how much work is actually being done in most recruitment offices on a Friday afternoon. Okay. And maybe it's just because I'm a bit of a softie, but I can guarantee in my office there was bugger all work getting done. No one's clattering out BD calls on a Friday afternoon. Yeah. You get back from lunch and people are just talking about the bloody weekend and where they're going to go on the lash on Friday night and what have you. But there's not much proper work, I would argue, in most recruitment offices on a Friday afternoon. So if you take that as truth, you're not really giving people the whole day off on Friday. You're only giving them Friday morning. Yeah. So what you've got to be looking at is, can they do 4.5 days worth of work in 4 days? Because we're discounting Friday afternoon. We're saying Friday afternoon, bugger all. Very little happens. Sorry, very little happens. Yeah. And so when you put it onto that into that perspective, you're only trying to get an extra half a day's worth of productivity out of the 4-day period. Yeah. Does that make sense?
That. Yeah, I like that perspective.
Okay. So we did a whole bunch of investigation and research and blah, blah, blah. And then what we thought we would do is implement a 6-month trial. So we were having a company sales kickoff at the W Hotel in Barcelona. And this was a sort of a top secret thing that I was working on with my ops director and marketing manager and what have you at the time. And we had the entire company assembled in this really, really fancy place. And we launched it and announced it via some really creatively well put together videos that Billy, the marketing manager, put together at the time. And it was a beautiful thing, actually. The reaction in the room was absolutely jaw-dropping, because I think people thought I was taking a mickey, that almost like it was an April Fool's joke or something like that. And it takes a little bit of time to settle into people's heads that you're saying, we are going to go 4-day week. You are going to get every Friday off fully paid. And the other thing here, because the natural inclination is to say, well, great, stretch the hours. Let's make the Monday to Thursday 12-hour working days, or stretch a few hours on that. Which, I'll be honest, that is the first thing I thought when I'd heard of a 4-day week. But speaking to John Nash and reading these Scandinavian surveys, said do not stretch the hours. Yeah, because you're going to unpick all the benefits you're getting by giving them Friday off, if you then just pack the hours in onto the other days. So you keep the other 4 days exactly the same contractual hours. And the whole thing here is the benefit of having Friday off, fully paid, to do with as you will. Yeah.
Fantastic. And I think the reason that I originally decided to do a 4-day week myself was because I had a small child. And the reason I chose Friday to have the Friday off was because clients didn't really want to speak to me on a Friday. Candidates didn't really want to speak to me on a Friday either. So it wasn't my most productive day.
Yeah.
So I think the question that a lot of people have when looking at implementing a 4-day week model is, does everyone have the same day off? And if so, what is the kind of feedback from candidates and clients if they can't get hold of you on a Friday?
Okay, so from what I've read and understood, different companies have different approaches. Some do the staggered system where different people have different days of the week off. The advice I read, and again, John Nash's advice, which was very prescient, was no, you've got to get the team bond on this, right? You're all in it together, Monday to Thursday, working diligently, getting the job done. If you stagger it across the 5 days, you're never going to really get the unified team response, because there's always going to be somebody off. Yeah. So we opted for the Friday, partly because, like I say, I think Friday is a bit of a slow day in recruitment, or at least in my shop, it's a bit of a slow day in recruitment. I totally accept that contract recruiters might view it differently. We're very much a perm shop. We do some contract, but we're very much a perm shop by history. And with regards to the perm work that we do, no one's going to die if you ain't in on a Friday. Yeah. With contract, I appreciate if a job gets rung in Friday morning, you've got to have it covered by Friday lunchtime or what have you. And that's a different area of the game. And I know contract recruiters might think differently about the idea of not having people in the office on a Friday. But in the world of reasonably high-level tech perm work that we're doing, nothing's going to really affect the process too much if you're not in the office on the Friday. And ultimately, you show me a decent recruiter who's not on their phone 7 days a week, probably until about 11 o'clock at night. Yeah. So the big difference here was, all right, if you have to make or take a call on a Friday, well, you'll do it anyway, right?
Yeah.
You would on a Saturday, you would on a Sunday evening if you had to, because decent recruiters are generally always contactable. The idea here on the Friday is you will make or take that call if you have to, from the beach, from the park, from the school run, from Tesco's, from wherever you might be, rather than sitting in an office pretending to work and counting down the clock until you can go to the pub. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So most people can generally manage their diaries. They don't have to make or take urgent calls on a Friday, but these things do happen. You might need to follow up on an interview. You might even, heaven forbid, have to go and make a client meeting on a Friday if they're flying through Heathrow and it's the only time this year they're going to be in the UK. Well, fine, go and do that. But then, like I said, a decent recruiter would probably do that on a Sunday evening anyway, without too many tears attached to it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How did you roll that out to your candidates and clients?
One of the things when I spoke to John was I said you didn't bang the marketing drum particularly loudly when you implemented it. Why not? And he said to me, one reason was he didn't want all his competitors pinching the idea. And secondly, he thought clients and candidates may react negatively to it. Okay. So I thought, okay, let's be proactive on this. So I personally wrote to every single client that we deal with around the world with the reasons, with what an overview of what we were doing, the reasons we were doing it, what we perceived the impact to be, and with a sort of any concerns or questions. Here's my direct line. Here's my mobile phone. Contact me. And bearing in mind, a lot of these clients are VP HR or HR directors or what have you. We had a number of responses very quickly from companies going, "Oh my God, how lucky. Oh my God, will you please come and talk to me after the trial because I'd love to implement that in my company," etc., etc. We didn't get a single negative response coming out of it. And so I'm glad that we went proactively because, 1 in 3 workers in the UK, evidently, will have a mental health issue at work during the course of their careers. When we're talking mental health, it could be anxiety, it could be stress, it can be depression, it can be whatever mental health issues are around, right? And 1 in 3 of us are going to be affected by this. And when you're talking about the 4-day week, one of the primary benefits of it is looking after the well-being and the emotional and mental well-being of your staff. And recruitment is a high-pressure, high-stress environment. It's notoriously high burnout rate, yeah? It's an absolutely full-on sales job. And you do get a high preponderance of mental health, anxiety, stress, blah, blah, blah issues going on. So when you can come along and proactively say, "Mr. Client, what I'm going to do is help and protect my people as much as possible. And by doing that, they are going to be happier, more energetic, more motivated, mentally in a better place. And therefore, for the 4 days of the week that they're in the office, they're in a far better place to give you great attention and great service." Yeah. So when you flip it around like that, you see very, very quickly it becomes, well, yeah, this makes a lot of sense, actually. Do I want recruiters who are burnt out, tired, jaded, stressed, and depressed phoning me on a Friday? Or do I want these eager beavers who have had a good 3-day weekend? They've had some nice time with their family. They've done some healthy, sporty type things and looked after themselves. And on Monday, they're good to go again. They're ready to go. Yeah. Because I know when I was a rookie, I used to dread Sunday night. Sunday night rolled around far too quickly, and you'd stand at the ironing board, ironing your shirts, because we had to wear suits back in those days, of course. And you're thinking, "Oh, Jesus, how quickly has the weekend gone?" And when you've got kids, I've got 5 kids. My life at weekend is generally revolving around the kids. And by the time Sunday evening rolls around, you're exhausted. You get to the couch about 8 o'clock on a Sunday night with a glass of red wine, and you're like, "Jesus, I'm back at work in a minute.
Got to do it all again."
Yeah. Instead, you now go, "Okay, Friday's off. Right, the kids are at school. For the first time in flipping years, if you're a parent, you've got some me time. Yeah. Go to the gym, go and trawl around the shops, go for whatever, going for lunch with your wife, whatever the stuff that you don't normally have time to do. Yeah. So I made basically Friday a bit of a me day, which felt a little bit selfish in a way, but you spot the benefit so quickly. When's the last time you could say, honestly, with kids, I can go to the gym and spend 2 or 3 hours down the gym or just sit in the sauna or the spa and not feel guilty, not feel under pressure to get out and do something? Yeah.
And because then,
yeah, for most parents particularly. Yeah. So, and also from another point, and this is from possibly a more management point of view, I know when I used to take time out of the office before, if the office was open, there's this massive FOMO going on. You're checking your phone constantly. What am I missing out on? What dramas are happening? What problems are happening? What am I walking back into on a Monday morning? Blah, 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 blah. And when you're all off on the Friday, that's not happening. There's no FOMO. So you actually get a proper day of switching off and relaxing and enjoying yourself. Yeah. So you sort of get your weekend breaks up a little bit into the Friday's a me day. pick up the kids after school, take them for a pizza or whatever. Saturday can be more your normal family activities or shopping or whatever you have to do and then Sunday's nice time with the kids. Yeah. So you break the weekend out, and by the time Sunday evening rolls around, now you generally think, yeah, now I'm good to go. I'm good to get back to the office. Had enough of the kids, need a break from them. I'm good to get back to the office now. And you're rested and relaxed. It makes a massive difference.
Fantastic. So obviously you had the trial for the 6 months first.
Yeah.
How did you measure the success of it?
We were measuring a whole bunch of metrics. A lot of it was to do with sales and productivity, because obviously those are the things I'm primarily interested in. We were measuring things to do with absenteeism and sick notes. We were measuring, well, it's really hard to measure the mental health aspect, and 6 months isn't a huge period of time to really notice tangible benefits or gains. But we did a huge staff survey after the 6 months. And from a headline point of view, figures, stats, numbers, there was a productivity gain of 25% across the period. So by working less days, we got about a quarter increase in sales and output. Okay. Absenteeism, sick notes. Now, we didn't used to have a sick note culture, but it's normal life. You used to get a few ring-ins on the Monday morning, and maybe it's people who'd overcooked it at the weekend or what have you. And absenteeism had decreased something like 70 or 80% across the period. Most people generally said they felt their mental health had improved, but like I say, really, really difficult to measure. Yeah. But most people, when asked about mental health, felt it had improved across the period. So I was just sitting there at the end of 6 months going, right, so productivity is up 25%. No one's left the business in the last 6 months, which is great, obviously. I've got a queue of people at the door who want to join the business. And my sick note culture, well, not sick note culture, but the absenteeism has massively decreased across the period. Yeah. And so at that point, you think, well, this is done. This is done and done. It works. It can be made to work. Now, what you've got to find, though, is some people adapt to it and adjust to it more naturally than others. And what I found particularly in the UK office, the older, more mature recruiters and the people with kids really adjusted quickly. They got the benefit and they could think, wow, a day to myself on the front, and they could really get the benefit, and they adjusted quickly. Some of my younger, early 20s, early to mid 20s age group recruiters, some of them did take longer to adjust and adapt. And I'd say most people had sort of clicked into gear within 3 to 4 months of the trial going live. But it was marked that it was the younger people who took a little bit longer to click into gear. And what I mean by clicking into gear is, in a way, it's a fudge, right? I'm saying to my staff, you get Friday off fully paid. I'm the world's best boss. Woohoo, give me a prize. But I ain't reducing your target, right? I'm not reducing your salary, but I'm not reducing your target either. I expect the same output. All I've done is given you less time to achieve it in. And I've now put the problem, I've delegated the problem onto your desk. It's now your problem, Timmy. Go and do your job, right? And what that means is they need to be far more focused, and they need to be far more aware of what they're actually spending their time on. So one of the noticeable impacts was there was a decrease in, what should we say, office chit chat. Yeah, talking about football, talking about Love Island, talking about EastEnders, talking about what you're doing this weekend, because people are like, well, crikey, I've still got my bloody target to hit. This is recruitment, right? If you miss your target for long enough, you lose your job. I've still got my target to hit. I better hold the conversation about Love Island, as fascinating as it may be, until I've finished work and gone to the pub. Yeah. And I actually appreciate that, because I don't like football nor Love Island, so I was quite happy with that. But that doesn't mean the office became a sweatshop environment. There is still bands, there is still laughter, there is still fun. But that classic leaning back in your chair on a Friday afternoon and going, hey, what are you doing this weekend? And those sort of conversations died. Yeah, because people are like, no, I've got my metrics and I've got my KPIs and I've got to get it done before I knock off on Thursday at 6 o'clock. I'll talk about football later, mate. Cheers. Yeah.
There's a less wasted time.
Yeah, totally. And you become far more efficient at thinking, what am I going to spend my time on this week or today? Which client, which vacancy, which candidate? Is this a wild goose chase piece of recruitment, or can I do some constructive work here? Yeah. And I think it helped clear people's minds up a little bit. of the value of the time they were investing in certain projects.
Mm-hmm. We tend to find that with people that work part-time, don't we? They are as productive in less hours because they have to.
Yeah, because they have to be. One of my German colleagues once did say to me, you are at absolute peak efficiency the day before you go on a 2-week holiday. Yeah. And if you can apply that sort of mindset, now maybe you can't continue that every day, 4 days a week forever, but that if you take that mindset approach before you go on a vacation, you don't have any distraction on that day because you've got so much to do in such a compressed period of time before you fly off somewhere that you're at peak efficiency. Yeah. And so the 4-day week is about a similar sort of approach to the work that you're doing. Is this valuable? Is it critical? Is it important? Is it a value add? Should I even be doing it at all? And you probably get a little bit more brutal about the things you will chuck off your desk. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you've tasted the 4-day week, you ain't going back to 5. Yeah. That is a real retrograde step to go to a 5-day week when you've enjoyed the benefit of a 4-day week. Yeah. And this is where I've got to be a little bit careful here because I am banging the drum for the 4-day week, but I don't want everyone doing it, right? One of the reasons we introduced it was to give us a USP over other recruitment companies. The Brighton recruitment market is pretty hectic and competitive, and we're all busy trying to nick each other's staff all the time, right? And all recruitment companies go, oh, we've got massive commission schemes and we give bonuses and we give Rolexes and we give trips to Las Vegas and we give trips to Ibiza and we give massive piss-ups at posh restaurants. Yeah, we all do that, right? There's no differentiator when we're all doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But when you come along going, oh, as well as doing all that nice stuff, we've got a 4-day week. Then you've got a proper differentiator. That gets attention.
Absolutely.
So if everyone in Brighton starts doing a 4-day week, I'm back to the drawing board again, right? And I'm going to think, oh shit, now what am I going to do? Now what are we going to do to get a USB? Yeah. So in a way, I shouldn't be speaking to you today, Lindsay.
Bless you. So in terms of internal recruitment, then obviously the rec-to-rec market at the moment is extremely difficult. Everyone's vying after the same candidates. As you said, everyone's giving out all these benefits, these great commission schemes, and people are still finding it really hard to find great recruiters. Has it made it easier for you during this period to get those staff to come to you and actually to get the best people in?
Okay, we've had huge interest, huge amounts of applicants. Partly you've got to sort through the wheat from the chaff. There's a lot of chances out there. There's a lot of lazy people who think, oh, this sounds cushy. I get paid 5 days to work 4. I want to work for a cushy company like that. It's not cushy, right? It ain't cushy. You've got to work flipping hard on those 4 days. So you've got to sort through the chances. And also, I am quite fussy in terms of what I hire, the hiring profiles. Yeah. And since going 4-day, I was always fussy, but since going 4-day week, I think I'm probably even fussier now. Because I'd say, no, we have got a real unique golden benefit here. And if I'm going to let you in to my sandpit, come and play in my playground or whatever the phrase is, you've got to be good. You've got to be really good. Yeah. I don't want any chances and job hoppers and guarantee hoppers and those sort of people who just think it might be a bit of a laugh to have a 3-day bender every weekend. I want the proper, diligent career recruiters who take the job seriously and do a professional job. So I've got a little bit more fussy than I even was before, I'd say, about what I will hire. Yeah.
They've got to earn that 4-day week.
Yeah, oh, totally. It is a proper privilege. It's not a right. It's a proper privilege. Yeah. If you abuse the privilege, well, great. Go and work at a company that gives you 5-day weeks. Right? Good luck.
Thank you so much for giving us that overview, David. I think that was really interesting. What I'd like to do is just go through some of the comments. And we've got some of your staff have commented on their experience here as well, and answer some questions if that's okay with you.
Pleasure.
So Jake says, we're very lucky to have the scheme implemented here at MRL. Ben says, it helps efficiency massively, and we've implemented it well, which obviously you've mentioned. Olivia said, I think the 4-day working week is actually more productive. It works. We're doing it well, and it's a great scheme. can see how it's having a positive effect on your staff. He says 4-day week works if you have a professional and grown-up environment, and that's a really good point. We've seen a massive increase in productivity and a reduction in sick rate, which again is very good. Ben says, having just had a baby, it gives me extra time I wouldn't normally get with the little guy. Friday's my day to take Joey swimming and support my wife, which has had an unbelievably positive impact on her mental health. That's amazing, because obviously if the partner's happy, if you're getting to spend those extra time with your kids, then you're going to leave, are you, and you're going to do a great job while you're at work.
Yeah.
The people who don't work for you have mentioned that they do a 4-day week and they find it a great balance. Chris says that the 4-day week means that he does the normal weekend stuff on a Friday, so the boring stuff, housework, the grocery shopping, etc., and then he gets to enjoy his weekend with his family more.
Yeah.
Jordan says the 4-day week is so much more than just a PR ploy or a fluffy talking point. It works, not just for the company's bottom line, but for everyone's well-being and work-life balance. I have more time for family, my friends, and myself, and burnouts are a thing of the past. So although it's difficult for us to measure mental health, I think the feedback speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Ron Nash is actually watching, and he said, mentioned David, we're 6 years in for implementing the 4-day week. So obviously John is much further ahead, real pioneer. If you want to increase productivity over the long term, get your recruitment and retention right, and the productivity will naturally follow. That's a great point. The 4-day week has massively helped with this, and most importantly, everyone's happier. And as we all know, happier staff and more productive staff, the more loyal, and they are great advocates for bringing in other great people to your business as well. Fantastic. So we will open the floor up for some questions. So Abby says, is it alternators? There's always someone in the office. I worry about missing something on my day off. Obviously, you've that one that you chose specifically to have that one day off for everyone. And it doesn't mean that clients don't get dealt with or candidates don't get dealt with if they need to. It just means that it's a privilege to be able to answer that odd phone call from home, because your consultants are grown-ups that will get the job done however is needed. So I think you probably answered that one a little bit earlier on. The way that I always did it with my Friday off was I actually told my clients I wasn't working on a Friday, but if they needed me or there was an emergency, I was contactable. 9 times out of 10, they would only contact me if they really needed me. And actually, most of the things that they would have contacted me about on a Friday couldn't be done on a Monday anyway. And a lot of my clients, especially HR people, some of them work part-time, so they completely understood. And as you said, being honest is the best way, because I suspect for a lot of people, if you're honest with your clients and you tell them what's going on, they're probably going to have a much more positive response than you would expect. Abby again has said, what if an urgent role comes in and you're up against another agency? I think you've answered that one as well.
Well, yeah, on that one with Abby, on the Friday missing a call thing, so I actually created a bit of employment, as it were, to make sure I've got phone cover on a Friday. So the switchboard is manned, woman, whatever, by a human. Yeah, there was a human person taking the call on the Friday and emailing the consultant who the call is for. Everyone's got email on their phones these days, obviously, so they're going to be aware of the incoming. So actually, I don't force any of the staff to work on the Friday. That created a 1-day-a-week type job for somebody to do that. Okay. And what was that Abby's secondary thing about an urgent job comes in? Honestly, Abby, you're probably in a different world of recruitment to us. Most of the stuff we get takes weeks to fill. It's really complicated perm stuff, and you're never going to lose a job for the sake of one day. I appreciate very much if you're in high speed, high street contracting type stuff, that would be a different situation. It doesn't apply to me, fortunately, in this case. And I can see why that would be a concern if you're in a fast moving environment.
Yeah, and I suspect for people like Abby, maybe if they're in temporary recruitment, or if it's not a relationship-led industry, maybe it's more transactional, it's about who gets there first. If you're looking to do a 4-day week, it may be slightly different to MRL, where you are working different days. So you're all doing your 4 days, but obviously things are being covered.
Yes, exactly.
Abby says, I think it's a great idea, love it, and would 100% be more productive in 4 days. Christopher says, David, you're speaking so much sense here. It's good to see and hear. Helen says, brilliant idea. Nick says, very interesting to hear the absenteeism and productivity stats, not to mention the positive effect on mental health. So a lot of what's coming out here is that people may look at doing this in terms of attracting staff. But it's not just about wanting to work a 4-day week. It's actually about all of the associated benefits with that. Not about having a day off, essentially. It's about the well-being benefits, the productivity benefits, the benefits for both your business and your staff that are really, really coming through here. David says, do you have any tips on how best to approach combining flexible working and a 4-day week?
Flexible working being flexi time or working from home, do we think?
David, if you could elaborate on that for us. I think a lot of companies have gone down, they're looking at more of, rather than having specific days, they're looking at a flexible working model where maybe people are working so many hours over so many days.
Okay, I'd probably refer you back to the point I was trying to make earlier about looking at output, not input. Yeah. We introduced flexi time years ago in the company, and I was told at the time it was the best thing we'd ever done. And then I realised no one was ever using it because, again, we're so conditioned in the UK to do 9 till 5, 9 till 6. Yeah. If you break out of that mindset and you think, okay, what have I got to do? What's my target? 20 grand a month. As long as I'm doing 20 grand a month, does it honestly matter what hours I work and how many days I'm putting in and what time I'm in the office? Does it honestly matter? If I'm giving you your 20 grand, and this is where a lot of recruitment bosses will get greedy and go, well, if you can give me 20 grand in 2 days a week, and then I want 40 grand in 4 days a week. I'm like, well, actually, if you're giving me 20 grand a month or whatever the target is, you've done what I asked you to. Yeah. That's what I'm paying your salary for. So you've just got to switch the mindset away from input to output and get over yourself about these clock watching, counting down the hours, blah, blah, blah. I think that time has passed, really.
Absolutely. I think it does come down to management and leadership and looking at the bigger picture rather than looking at all the more old-fashioned stats, because stats are just stats and they don't necessarily mean that because you change to your desk all day, making calls, whatever it may be, that you're going to be successful. Some of the most successful consultants work less hours, make more money, and have more output, obviously more of a work-life balance, because they're treated like grown-ups and they're allowed to do it. And I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Wrap it up there, but thank you so much, David, for joining me today. I think you've given a really unique perspective because there are not a lot of people that have done what you have done. And I think it's great that we've got the perspective of all of the benefits and from some of your staff as well, which I think is really important because there's clearly benefits for business, but there's clearly benefits for your staff as a whole as well. And I suspect your retention rate for staff will continue to be really, really high and will help business. Thank you very much. So thank you everyone for joining us. If you come on and watch replay and you have a question for David, please do feel free to continue to ask your questions in comments and just tag myself or David in. Now, next week, my guest will be Dan Wilkinson, and Dan is one of my 12-week mentorship personal branding clients. I'm going to be talking about mission-led marketing and positioning yourself as the expert in your field so that people automatically associate you as the person to go when they are looking to either hire new staff or they're looking for a new job as a candidate. We're looking at adding genuine value and the effect that it's had on Dan's business. So join us live next week on Thursday, 12:30, where I'll be live with Dan Wilkinson. Thank you again to David, and I shall see you next week.
Pleasure speaking to you. Cheers.